The morning Kai's life changed forever started like any other morning in the small village at the edge of the Moon Kingdom. He woke up before the sun rose, just as he always did, and quietly made his way to the kitchen to start breakfast for his father and younger brother. His hands moved automatically through the familiar tasks: lighting the fire, fetching water from the well, mixing flour for bread. The house was still dark and silent, and Kai liked it that way. These early morning hours were the only time he had to himself before his father's demands and his brother's complaints began. Kai was 18 years old, though sometimes he felt much older. Years of hard work and little appreciation had made him grow up faster than other boys his age. His mother had died when he was only 8, leaving him to take care of everything she once handled. His father, Lord Takeshi, was a minor noble who owned some land but was always hungry for more money and status. He spent most of his time visiting other nobles, trying to make important connections, while Kai stayed home doing all the work. Then there was Ryota, Kai's younger brother. At 16, Ryota had never done a single day of hard work in his life. He had inherited their mother's delicate features and knew exactly how to use his pretty face to get what he wanted. Lord Takeshi treated Ryota like a precious jewel, buying him nice clothes and paying for tutors to teach him music and poetry. Meanwhile, Kai wore the same old clothes year after year and had taught himself to read using his mother's old books. Kai didn't hate his brother, not exactly. Sometimes he even felt sorry for Ryota, who had grown up so spoiled that he didn't know how to do anything useful. But it hurt to watch their father shower Ryota with love and attention while barely noticing that Kai existed. The few times Kai had tried to talk to his father about it, Lord Takeshi had laughed and said, "Don't be silly. You're the older son, you should be grateful to have purpose. Ryota is special, he'll bring honor to our family name." As Kai kneaded the bread dough that morning, he wondered what his mother would think if she could see them now. She had been kind to both her sons equally, always making sure Kai knew he was loved and valued. After she died, it felt like all the warmth had left the house. Sometimes Kai talked to her memory while he worked, telling her about his day and imagining what advice she might give him. The sun was just beginning to peek through the windows when Kai heard footsteps. His father came into the kitchen, which was unusual. Lord Takeshi rarely woke up this early and almost never came to the kitchen. He was wearing his best traveling clothes and had an excited expression on his face that made Kai nervous. "Good morning, father," Kai said quietly, bowing his head respectfully. "Breakfast will be ready soon. Would you like tea?" Lord Takeshi waved his hand dismissively. "Never mind breakfast. Go wake your brother and bring him to the sitting room. I have important news for both of you." Kai's stomach tightened with worry, but he did as he was told. He went to Ryota's room, which was much larger and nicer than his own small space, and gently shook his brother awake. Ryota groaned and pulled the blankets over his head. "Go away, Kai. It's too early," Ryota mumbled. "Father wants to see us both right away," Kai explained. "He says he has important news." That got Ryota's attention. He sat up quickly, his long dark hair messy from sleep. "Important news? Do you think he arranged something good for me?" Kai helped his brother get dressed in one of his fine robes while his own simple clothes were wrinkled and worn. They made their way to the sitting room where Lord Takeshi was pacing back and forth with barely contained excitement. "Sit down, both of you," their father commanded, and they obeyed immediately. Lord Takeshi stood before them, his chest puffed out with pride. "I have been working on something very special for our family, something that will elevate our status and bring us wealth beyond what we've ever known." Ryota leaned forward eagerly. "What is it, father?" "I have made agreements with 2 very powerful families," Lord Takeshi announced. "Ryota, you will be adopted by Master Hiroshi, the wealthy merchant who owns trading ships across 3 kingdoms. He has no sons of his own and wants an heir to inherit his fortune. You will go to live with him in the capital city, learn his business, and eventually marry into another noble family. Can you imagine? Our family name connected to such wealth and influence." Ryota's face lit up with pure joy. He jumped to his feet and hugged their father. "Thank you, father. Thank you. I won't disappoint you. I'll make you so proud." Kai felt a familiar ache in his chest as he watched them embrace. This was exactly the kind of thing that always happened, Ryota getting wonderful opportunities while Kai received nothing. But he tried to smile anyway, tried to be happy for his brother even though it hurt. Then Lord Takeshi turned to look at Kai, and something in his expression made Kai's blood run cold. It wasn't the usual indifference or mild annoyance. It was something calculating and cruel. "As for you, Kai," his father said slowly, "I have also found a match for you. You will marry Prince Luna of the Moon Kingdom." For a moment, Kai couldn't breathe. Prince Luna? The Moon Kingdom was one of the most powerful kingdoms in the land. The royal family was respected and admired by everyone. Could it be that his father had actually arranged something good for him too? Could it be that he was finally being valued? But then Kai remembered something he had heard in the village market a few weeks ago. The vendors had been talking in hushed, sad voices about tragic news from the Moon Kingdom. "Father," Kai said carefully, his voice shaking slightly, "isn't Prince Luna, isn't he dead?" Lord Takeshi's smile widened, and in that moment, Kai saw exactly how little his father cared about him. Yes. He died about a month ago from a terrible illness. Very sad, of course. But here's the wonderful part: his mother, Queen Yuki, is so overcome with grief that she refuses to accept his death. She wants someone to go through with the wedding ceremony that had been planned for her son. She'll provide you with a home in the palace, food, everything you need, and she's paying me an enormous amount of gold for providing a groom. Kai felt like the floor had disappeared beneath him. "But father, that means I'll be marrying someone who isn't there. I'll never have a real husband or a real marriage. I'll never have a family of my own." "So what?" Lord Takeshi snapped, all pretense of kindness vanishing from his face. "You should be grateful I found any use for you at all. You're not handsome like your brother. You're not charming or talented. You're just a hard worker. And honestly, I can hire servants to do what you do. This arrangement gets you out of my house, brings me wealth, and frees me from the burden of having to provide for you anymore. You'll live comfortably in the palace. And all you have to do is play pretend for a sad old queen. It's an easy life." Every word felt like a knife stabbing into Kai's heart. He had always known his father preferred Ryota, but he had never realized the depth of Lord Takeshi's contempt for him. To his father, he wasn't a son at all. He was just a burden to be gotten rid of, a tool to be traded for gold. Kai looked at Ryota, hoping his brother might say something, might defend him or protest this cruel arrangement. But Ryota avoided his eyes, staring down at his hands. He knew this was wrong, Kai could tell, but Ryota wasn't going to risk his own good fortune by speaking up. "When do I leave?" Kai asked quietly, trying to keep his voice steady even though he wanted to cry. "In 1 week," Lord Takeshi said. "That gives you time to pack your things. Don't take too much, you won't need your work clothes in the palace. They'll provide you with appropriate attire." That week was the longest and loneliest of Kai's life. His father spent all his time helping Ryota prepare for his new life with Master Hiroshi. They went shopping together in the nearby town, returning with boxes full of expensive clothes, books, and gifts. Meanwhile, Kai quietly folded his few possessions into a small bag. He didn't own much: some old clothes, his mother's books, a small wooden carving she had made for him when he was little. The servants in the house whispered about him when they thought he couldn't hear. Some felt sorry for him. Others said he should be grateful for the opportunity, that living in a palace was better than the life he had here. But Kai knew the truth. He was being sent away to be a living memorial to a dead person, to spend his life alone in beautiful rooms, forever tied to someone he would never meet. On the day before he was supposed to leave, Kai walked through the village one last time. He visited his mother's grave at the small cemetery on the hill. The stone was simple, but Kai had always kept it clean and decorated with fresh flowers when he could find them. "Mother," he whispered, kneeling beside the grave. "I don't know what to do. I'm so scared. I'm being sent away to marry a ghost, and father is happy to be rid of me. Ryota won't even look at me anymore. I feel so alone." The wind rustled through the trees, and for a moment, Kai could almost imagine it was his mother's gentle voice telling him to be brave. She had always said that kindness was its own reward, that treating others well would eventually bring good things into his life. Kai wanted to believe that, But right now, it was hard to see how anything good could come from this situation. The next morning came too quickly. A fine carriage arrived at their house, sent by Queen Yuki to transport Kai to the Moon Kingdom Palace. It was far nicer than any carriage Kai had ever seen, with soft cushions inside and horses with shining coats. Lord Takeshi barely said goodbye. He patted Kai on the shoulder once and said, "Remember, don't embarrass me, do whatever the queen asks and keep her happy." Ryota did come out to see him off, and for a moment Kai thought his brother might finally say something meaningful. But all Ryota said was, "Good luck, brother," before hurrying back inside to continue his own packing. The journey to the Moon Kingdom took 3 days. Kai spent most of that time looking out the window, watching the landscape change from the simple farmland of his village to the more elegant estates and eventually to the grand capital city of the Moon Kingdom. The palace sat on a hill overlooking the entire city, its white towers reaching toward the sky like fingers made of moonlight. When the carriage finally arrived at the palace gates, Kai's heart was pounding. Guards in silver armor opened the gates and bowed as the carriage passed through. Everything was so formal and impressive. Kai felt very small and out of place in his simple traveling clothes. A tall man with kind eyes was waiting at the entrance. He wore the uniform of a royal guard, but something about the way he carried himself suggested he was more than just an ordinary soldier. He bowed to Kai as he stepped out of the carriage. "Welcome to the Moon Kingdom Palace. My name is Jin. I was Prince Luna's personal guard and friend. Queen Yuki asked me to greet you and show you to your quarters." Kai bowed back, not sure what else to do. "Thank you, I'm Kai." Jin's expression was carefully neutral, but Kai thought he saw a flash of pity in the man's eyes. He must think Kai was pathetic too, coming here to marry a dead prince for money. As they walked through the palace corridors, Kai couldn't help but stare at everything. The floors were made of polished marble that reflected the light from hundreds of candles. Paintings of past royal family members hung on the walls. Everything was beautiful but also felt cold and sad, as if the whole palace was mourning. Finally, they reached a set of large wooden doors. Jin opened them to reveal a beautiful bedroom. It had a large bed with silk sheets, a wardrobe full of fine clothes, windows that overlooked the palace gardens, and a desk with fresh paper and ink. It was the nicest room Kai had ever seen in his life. "These are your quarters," Jin explained. "Prince Luna's rooms are through that door." He pointed to another door on the far wall. "It's locked, of course. The queen sometimes visits his room to pray and leave offerings, as is our custom for honoring the dead." Kai nodded, feeling overwhelmed. Jin showed him where everything was and explained the schedule for meals and when the queen would want to see him. Then he hesitated, as if wanting to say something else. "Lord Kai," Jin finally said, "I know this situation is strange and probably not what you wanted, but please know that the queen is a good person. She's just lost in her grief right now. Prince Luna was her only child, and she loved him more than anything in the world. This wedding ceremony, it's the only way she knows how to hold on to him a little longer." "I understand," Kai said softly. "I lost my mother when I was young. I know how grief can make people do things that don't make sense to others." Jin looked surprised and then relieved. "Thank you for being understanding. The ceremony will be in 3 days. Until then, you can rest and prepare. If you need anything, just ask any of the servants. They've been instructed to help you with whatever you require." After Jin left, Kai sat on the edge of the bed and looked around his new room. It was beautiful and comfortable, but it felt like a beautiful cage. He was trapped here now, bound by his father's agreement and Queen Yuki's grief. That night, Kai couldn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about his life and how drastically it had changed. Tomorrow he would meet Queen Yuki for the first time. In 3 days, he would go through a wedding ceremony to marry someone who wasn't there. And then what? Would he just spend the rest of his life in this palace, alone, pretending to be something he wasn't? As he lay there, he heard a sound. It was faint, coming from the other side of the locked door that led to Prince Luna's room. It sounded like someone coughing. Kai sat up, his heart racing. Was someone in there? Jin had said the room was locked, and that only the queen visited sometimes. But it was the middle of the night. Surely the queen wasn't there now. He got out of bed and crept quietly to the door. He pressed his ear against the wood and listened carefully. There it was again, definitely a cough, and then the sound of someone moving around. "Hello?" Kai whispered, feeling foolish but unable to stop himself. "Is someone there?" For a long moment there was silence. Then, a weak voice answered from the other side of the door. "Who are you? Why are you in that room?" Kai gasped. The voice sounded young and male and definitely alive. "I'm Kai. I just arrived today. I'm supposed to marry Prince Luna, but everyone says he's— Are you a ghost?" There was a pause and then a soft, bitter laugh. "Not quite a ghost. Not yet anyway. I'm Luna, and apparently I'm your husband-to-be." Kai's legs felt weak. He slid down to sit on the floor with his back against the door. "But they said you died. Everyone said you died a month ago." "That's what they wanted everyone to think," Luna's voice said from the other side. He sounded tired and sad. "I'm very sick. The doctors said I was going to die soon, so my mother and Jin decided it would be safer to announce I was already dead. There are people who would try to hurt me if they knew I was still alive, but too weak to defend myself. This way, I can die in peace without worrying about assassins or political plots." "But you're not dead," Kai said, his mind spinning. "You're talking to me right now." "I'm dying," Luna corrected. "There's a difference. I probably have a few months left, maybe less. Every day I get a little weaker. So yes, I'm alive right now, but I won't be for much longer." Kai didn't know what to say. His situation had just become even stranger. He wasn't marrying someone who was already gone, he was marrying someone who was slowly fading away, trapped in a room, waiting to die. "I'm sorry," Kai finally whispered. "That's not fair. You're so young." "Life isn't fair," Luna said, but his voice was gentle, not bitter. "What about you? Why did you agree to this strange marriage? Did your family make you?" Kai laughed, but there was no humor in it. "My father sold me. Well, not exactly sold, but close enough. He got paid a lot of gold to send me here to marry you. He wanted to get rid of me anyway. He only cares about my younger brother. So we're both trapped," Luna observed. "Me in this room dying, you in this palace stuck in a fake marriage you didn't choose." "I guess so," Kai agreed. They sat on opposite sides of the door in silence for a while. It should have been awkward, but somehow it wasn't. There was something comforting about knowing there was another person there, someone who understood what it felt like to be powerless and alone. "Kai," Luna said eventually. "Yes?" Will you talk to me again tomorrow? It gets lonely in here. Jin visits when he can, and my mother comes every evening. But they're always so sad. They look at me like I'm already dead. It would be nice to talk to someone who doesn't know me as the dying prince, but just as a person." Kai felt his heart ache for this unknown young man on the other side of the door. "Yes," he said firmly. "I'll talk to you tomorrow, and the day after that, as long as you want." "Thank you," Luna whispered, and Kai could hear the relief in his voice. Kai went back to bed, but his mind was racing. Everything had changed in just one conversation. He wasn't alone anymore. There was someone else here who needed him, who wanted his company. And maybe, just maybe, he could make these last months of Luna's life a little less lonely. Maybe his mother had been right about kindness bringing good things. Maybe this was his chance to make a real difference in someone's life, even if that life was ending soon. As Kai finally drifted off to sleep, he thought about Luna's voice, weak but determined, sad but not defeated. Tomorrow he would meet Queen Yuki and begin preparing for the strange wedding ceremony. But more importantly, tomorrow he would talk to Luna again. And somehow that thought made everything seem a little less scary. Morning light filtered through the silk curtains when a gentle knock on the door woke Kai from a restless sleep. A young servant girl entered carrying a tray with breakfast and an elegant outfit laid carefully over her arm. She bowed deeply before speaking. "Good morning, my lord. Queen Yuki requests your presence in the garden room after you have eaten and dressed. I am here to help you prepare." Kai wasn't used to being called my lord or having servants help him with anything. Back home, he was the one who served everyone else. But he understood this was part of his new role, so he thanked the girl and allowed her to help him into the fine clothes. The fabric was softer than anything he had ever worn, and when he looked in the mirror, he barely recognized himself. The servant led him through more beautiful corridors until they reached a room with large windows overlooking a peaceful garden. Queen Yuki sat near the windows in an elegant chair, and when she turned to look at him, Kai's breath caught. She was beautiful but looked so tired and sad. Her eyes were red from crying and her face was pale. She wore white, the color of mourning. "You must be Kai," she said softly, gesturing for him to sit in the chair across from her. "Thank you for coming. Thank you for agreeing to this arrangement." Kai bowed respectfully before sitting. "Your Majesty, I am honored to be here." Queen Yuki studied his face for a long moment. "You don't have to pretend with me, child. I know this situation is bizarre. I know you probably think I'm a crazy old woman who can't let go of her dead son." Her voice cracked on the word dead, and she looked away. "I don't think that," Kai said honestly. "I think you're a mother who loved her son very much. When my mother died, I used to set a place for her at the table for months because I couldn't accept that she was really gone. Grief makes us do things that help us survive the pain." The queen's eyes filled with tears. "Your mother died too? How old were you?" 8 years old. "So young," Queen Yuki whispered. "And here I am, a grown woman, unable to cope with my loss. You must think me weak." "I think you're human," Kai replied. "And I think grief doesn't care how old we are or how strong we're supposed to be." Queen Yuki reached across and took Kai's hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "I see now why the spirits guided your father to contact us. You have a kind heart, Kai. My son, when he was healthy, he was so full of light and laughter. He cared about people, truly cared. He would have liked you, I think." Kai felt guilty keeping the secret of Luna being alive, but Jin had asked him not to tell anyone, and he understood why. If the wrong people found out, Luna would be in danger. The queen explained the details of the wedding ceremony. It would be small and private, held in the palace chapel with only a few witnesses. Kai would stand beside an empty chair where Luna would have stood. They would exchange vows, though only Kai would speak. Then Kai would be given a royal seal marking him as Prince Luna's consort, even though the marriage wasn't real in any practical sense. "After the ceremony, you will live here in the palace," Queen Yuki explained. "You may do as you wish with your time. Study in the library, walk in the gardens, whatever brings you peace. I only ask that you join me for dinner every evening and allow me to talk about my son sometimes. It comforts me to keep his memory alive." "Of course, Your Majesty," Kai agreed. "I would be happy to hear stories about Prince Luna." When the meeting ended and Kai returned to his room, his head was spinning with everything he had learned. The ceremony was scheduled for 2 days from now. He had elegant clothes being prepared, and there would be flowers and music even though it would be a sad occasion. As soon as he was alone, Kai went to the locked door and knocked softly. "Luna, are you awake?" "I'm here," Luna's voice answered. He sounded a bit stronger than the night before. "How did the meeting with my mother go?" "She's very kind," Kai said, sitting down with his back against the door like he had the previous night. "And she's hurting so much. She really loved you." "Loves," Luna corrected quietly. "She still loves me, even if she doesn't know I'm alive. That's what makes this so hard." Jin and I decided not to tell her the truth because we were afraid the shock and hope might be too much for her heart. She's not well herself. If she knew I was alive but dying, she would spend every moment watching me fade away. At least this way, she's already said goodbye. When I actually die, it won't hurt her again. "That's a very selfless way to think about it," Kai observed. "Or maybe it's cowardly," Luna said bitterly. "Maybe I just don't want to see the hope in her eyes turn to despair as I get worse." They talked for over an hour, their voices low and intimate through the wooden door. Luna asked Kai to tell him about the village where he grew up, and Kai found himself sharing stories he hadn't thought about in years. He told Luna about learning to bake bread with his mother, about the old man at the market who used to give him free apples, about the little pond where he would go to think when things got hard at home. In return, Luna told Kai about his childhood in the palace. He described grand celebrations and important visitors from other kingdoms. He talked about the pressure of being the only heir, of knowing that one day he would be king and being terrified he wouldn't be good enough. "What was your illness?" Kai asked carefully. If you don't mind me asking. Luna was quiet for a moment. The doctors called it a wasting sickness. It started with just feeling tired all the time. Then I couldn't eat without feeling sick. My body got weaker and weaker. They tried every medicine, every treatment. Nothing worked. I got so bad that I couldn't leave my bed. I couldn't see visitors because I looked like a skeleton. That's when my mother made the announcement that I had died. She couldn't bear for people to see me like that. Do you ever get out of that room? Kai asked. Rarely, sometimes late at night. Jin helps me walk around a bit so my legs don't forget how to work, but it's dangerous. If anyone saw me, the secret would be out. An idea formed in Kai's mind. What if I came into your room? Just to sit with you, would that be allowed? Luna made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. You would want to do that? Sit in a room with a dying person who probably looks horrible? You're not just a dying person, Kai said firmly. You're Luna. You're the person I'm going to marry in 2 days. I think husbands should be able to sit together, don't you? Another long silence. Then Luna said very quietly, I would like that. I would like that very much. Later that evening, Jin came to Kai's room. His expression was serious but not unkind. His Highness told me about your conversation. You know he's alive. I won't tell anyone, Kai promised quickly. I understand why it needs to be a secret. Jin studied Kai's face as if trying to determine whether he could be trusted. Finally, he nodded. Prince Luna also told me that you offered to visit him in his room. Are you sure you want to do that? He doesn't look the way a prince should look. The illness has taken a toll on his body. I don't care what he looks like, Kai said honestly. He's lonely and scared. So am I. Maybe we can help each other. Something in Jin's expression softened. You're kind, Lord Kai. Kinder than most nobles I've met. The prince could use a friend right now. Very well. I'll unlock the door between your rooms. But please, be careful. Don't tell anyone else, not even the servants. The only people who know Prince Luna is alive are myself, the royal physician who checks on him, and now you. What about your uncle, Duke Soren? Kai asked, remembering something the queen had mentioned. Doesn't he know? Jin's face darkened. Duke Soren is the reason we have to keep this secret. He's the queen's younger brother, and he's always been ambitious. If Luna dies without an heir, Soren would become next in line for the throne. We've heard whispers that he's been meeting with unsavory people, possibly even hiring assassins. If he knew Luna was still alive but helpless, he might try to speed up the process. Kai felt a chill run down his spine. That's horrible. His own nephew? Power makes people do terrible things, Jin said sadly. That's why this secret is so important. Are you still willing to keep it? Absolutely, Kai said without hesitation. Jin pulled out a key and unlocked the door between the 2 rooms. I'll leave this unlocked from now on. But please, only visit him when you're sure no servants are around. Early morning or late at night is safest. After Jin left, Kai stood staring at the now unlocked door. His heart was pounding. He was about to meet Luna face to face for the first time. What would he look like? What would they say to each other when they weren't separated by a wall? Kai took a deep breath and knocked softly. Luna? May I come in? Yes, came the response, though Luna's voice sounded nervous. The door is open. Kai turned the handle and stepped into Luna's room. The space was dimmer than his own, with thick curtains blocking most of the light. It took a moment for his eyes to adjust. The room was similar in size to Kai's, but felt more lived in, with books scattered on surfaces and medical supplies on a table near the bed. And in the bed, propped up against several pillows, was Luna. Kai's first thought was that Jin had been wrong. Luna didn't look horrible at all. Yes, he was thin, much thinner than he should be, and his skin was pale like moonlight. But his face was beautiful, with delicate features and large eyes that seemed to hold both sadness and curiosity. His hair was long and silver white, spread across the pillows like strands of starlight. You're staring, Luna said, and Kai realized he had been standing frozen in the doorway. Sorry, Kai said, moving further into the room. You're not what I expected. You mean I'm not a rotting corpse? Luna asked with dark humor. I mean you're beautiful, Kai said honestly, and then felt his face heat up with embarrassment. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But Luna's face had turned pink too. No one's called me beautiful in a long time. They look at me with pity now, not admiration. He gestured to a chair beside his bed. Please, sit, I won't bite. Kai sat down carefully, still feeling awkward. Now that they were face to face instead of separated by a door, he didn't know what to say. Luna seemed to feel the same way. They sat in silence for a moment before both started speaking at once. You can go first, Luna said with a small smile. I was just going to say that I'm glad I finally get to see you, Kai admitted. Talking through the door was nice, but this is better. I agree, Luna said softly. Though I have to admit, I was nervous about you seeing me like this. I used to be stronger, healthier. I could ride horses and practice sword fighting. Now I can barely walk across the room without getting dizzy. But you're still you, Kai said. Being sick doesn't change who you are as a person. Luna looked at him with surprise. You really believe that? Of course. When my mother was dying, she got very weak at the end. But she was still my mother. She was still the person who sang to me and told me stories and made me feel loved. The illness was just something happening to her body, not something that changed her heart. Luna's eyes got shiny with tears. I wish I could have met your mother. She raised a very wise son. They talked for hours that night until Luna started yawning and Ki realized how tired he must be. As Ki stood to leave, Luna reached out and caught his hand. Thank you, Luna whispered, for seeing me. Really seeing me, not just the sick prince or the dying heir, but just me. Kai squeezed his hand gently. Thank you for letting me in. That became their routine over the next few days. Kai would visit Luna in the early mornings before anyone else was awake and again late at night after the servants had finished their rounds. They talked about everything and nothing. Luna taught Kai about the history of the Moon Kingdom and the responsibilities of royalty. Kai told Luna more stories about growing up in his village and about the books he loved to read. The day before the wedding ceremony, a package arrived for Chi. It was from his father's house, but when Kai opened it, he found a letter from Ryota. Dear brother Chi. The letter began, and Kai's heart lifted slightly. Maybe Ryota was finally going to say something kind. Maybe apologize for not speaking up when their father treated Kai so badly. But as Kai read further, his hope crumbled into hurt and anger. Ryota's letter was full of bragging about his wonderful new life with Master Hiroshi. He described the mansion he now lived in, the expensive clothes he wore, the parties he attended with important people. Every sentence was designed to show Chi how much better Ryota's life was. Then came the final paragraph that made Kai's hands shake. Master Hiroshi is already treating me like his real son. He says I'll officially become his heir next month. Father is so proud of me. He visited yesterday and said he made the right choice in sending you away because now I can focus on bringing honor to our family name. He said you were always too plain and too serious anyway, and that marrying you to a dead prince was the best use he could find for you. Don't bother writing back or thinking about visiting. We've all moved on to better things. You're part of our past now, not our future. Kai read the letter 3 times, each time feeling like he had been punched in the stomach. He had known his father didn't love him, but seeing it written so bluntly was devastating. And Ryota, his own brother, seemed happy to agree. They had erased him from the family as if he had never existed. He must have made some sound of distress because suddenly Luna's voice called from the other room. Kai, what's wrong? Kai walked into Luna's room without thinking, still holding the letter. His vision was blurry with tears he was trying not to shed. Luna tried to sit up straighter, concern written all over his face. What happened? Kai handed him the letter without speaking. Luna read it quickly, and with each line his expression grew darker and more angry. Your family is full of terrible people, Luna said when he finished, his voice sharp with fury. How dare they treat you this way? How dare they make you feel worthless? Maybe they're right, Kai said, his voice breaking. Maybe I am worthless. I'm not pretty like Ryota. I'm not charming or talented. I'm just someone who's good at working hard, and anyone can do that. Stop, Luna said firmly. Stop saying those things about yourself. Listen to me, Kai. You are kind, which is rarer and more valuable than being pretty. You are brave, coming here to an unknown place and making the best of an impossible situation. You sit with a dying person every day and make him laugh. You talk to a grieving queen and give her comfort. You're worth more than your entire family combined. Kai stared at Luna through his tears. Do you really think so? I know so, Luna said intensely. Then, even though it clearly took effort, he pushed himself to the edge of the bed and held out his arms. Come here. Kai didn't hesitate. He moved forward and let Luna pull him into a hug. Luna's arms were thin, but surprisingly strong as they wrapped around Kai's shoulders. Kai hugged him back carefully, afraid of hurting him, but Luna held on tight. You matter, Luna whispered against Kai's hair. You matter to the queen. You matter to Jin, and you matter to me. Don't let cruel people convince you otherwise. They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other. And slowly, Kai felt something shift inside him. The hurt was still there, but underneath it was something else. Determination. His father and brother had abandoned him, but he wasn't alone. He had people here who cared about him. He had Queen Yuki, who treated him with kindness. He had Jin, who was starting to become a friend. And he had Luna, who saw value in him even when Kai couldn't see it himself. When they finally pulled apart, both their faces were wet with tears. I'm sorry, Luna said. I got your nice clothes all wet. I don't care, Kai said, and he meant it. Thank you for what you said. I needed to hear it. It's all true, Luna insisted. And Kai? Tomorrow we're getting married. I know it's just a ceremony. I know it's not real in the way marriages usually are. But I want you to know something. If I wasn't dying, if things were different, I would be honored to marry you for real. You're exactly the kind of person I would have chosen for myself. Kai's heart did something strange in his chest. Luna, you don't have to say anything back, Luna said quickly. I just wanted you to know. You deserve to hear that someone thinks you're worth choosing. But Kai did have something to say. If things were different, I would choose you too. You're brave and kind, and you care about people even when you're the one suffering. I'm glad I met you, Luna. Even if the circumstances are terrible, I'm glad I got to know you. They looked at each other for a long moment, and something unspoken passed between them. It wasn't love, not yet. But it was the beginning of something that could have become love if they had more time. That night, Kai made a decision. He would stop mourning the family that had rejected him. Instead, he would focus on the people who valued him. He would be the best companion he could be for Luna during whatever time they had left. He would help Queen Yuki with her grief. He would make a new life here, even if it wasn't the life he had imagined. And if his father and brother regretted their choices someday, well, that would be their problem. Kai was done trying to earn love from people who were incapable of giving it. The wedding ceremony the next day was beautiful and sad, exactly as expected. Kai stood in his elegant white and silver robes next to an empty chair while a priest spoke the traditional words. Queen Yuki cried quietly throughout the whole thing. Jin stood as a witness, his expression carefully neutral. When it came time for Kai to say his vows, he spoke clearly and truthfully. He promised to honor Luna's memory, to support the queen, and to uphold the values that Luna had lived by. And even though no one else in the room knew it, Kai was really speaking to the living Luna who was listening from his locked room. After the ceremony, there was a small reception with a few nobles who had known Luna. They offered their condolences to both Kai and the queen. Kai accepted their sympathy politely, playing his role as the grieving husband who had never even met his spouse. But later that night, when everyone was asleep and the palace was quiet, Kai went to Luna's room. Luna was sitting up in bed, looking exhausted but somehow more alive than usual. So, Luna said with a slight smile, how does it feel to be married to a ghost? Strange, Kai admitted, sitting in his usual chair, but also kind of nice. At least I know my husband is much more interesting than anyone expected. Luna laughed, which turned into a cough. Kai quickly poured him water from the pitcher on the bedside table. When Luna could breathe again, he looked at Kai with an expression that was hard to read. Kai, can I tell you something? Anything. I've been feeling a bit better lately. Just small things I can stay awake longer. Food doesn't make me as sick. I don't feel quite as weak. The physician says it might just be a temporary improvement before things get worse again. But I've been thinking, what if it's not temporary? What if I could actually get better? Kai's heart leaped with hope. That would be amazing. But that means we'd need to keep hiding the truth for even longer. Luna continued. If I do get better, we can't just suddenly announce that I'm alive. Duke Soren would become suspicious. He might realize we faked my death. It could be dangerous. Then we keep the secret, Kai said firmly, for as long as necessary. I'm not going anywhere, Luna. Whether you get better or not, I'm here. Luna reached out and took Kai's hand, lacing their fingers together. You know what's funny? I've been dying for months, and I accepted it. I made peace with it. But now that I've met you, now that I have a reason to want to stay alive, I'm suddenly terrified of dying. I don't want to leave you, Kai. Then don't, Kai whispered. Fight. Get better. I'll help you. We'll do this together. And as they sat there holding hands in the dim light of Luna's room, both of them dared to hope that maybe, just maybe, this story didn't have to end in death after all. The first rays of sunlight touched the garden outside Luna's window as Kai carefully helped him take another step. It had been 3 weeks since the wedding ceremony, and every day Luna seemed a little bit stronger. The change was small but undeniable. He could stand without getting dizzy now. He could eat a full meal without feeling sick. The dark circles under his eyes had started to fade, and there was color returning to his pale cheeks. That's it, Kai encouraged, his arm wrapped securely around Luna's waist as they walked slowly around the room. Just a few more steps to the chair. Luna was breathing hard from the effort, but he was smiling. I can't believe how weak I got. I used to be able to run for miles. Now walking across a room feels like climbing a mountain. You'll get there again, Kai assured him. The physician said your body just needs time to remember how to be strong. They had developed a routine over the past few weeks. Every morning before dawn, Kai would slip into Luna's room and they would practice walking. Then Kai would make sure Luna ate a good breakfast. During the day, while Kai attended to his duties with the Queen, Luna would rest and read. In the evenings, they would talk for hours, and Kai would read aloud to Luna from the books in the palace library. The royal physician, Dr. Chen, was amazed by Luna's improvement. He was an old man who had served the royal family for decades, and was one of the few people who knew Luna was still alive. He visited every few days to check on Luna's progress. This is remarkable, Dr. Chen said during his most recent visit, listening to Luna's heartbeat with a special instrument. Your heart is stronger. Your lungs are clearer. Whatever you're doing, it's working. I've never seen someone recover from this illness before. What do you think changed? Jin asked. He had become a constant presence, helping however he could. Dr. Chen glanced at Qi, who was sitting quietly in the corner. I think having something to live for makes all the difference. The human body is connected to the human heart in ways we don't fully understand. When Prince Luna thought he had nothing left to fight for, his body gave up. But now, he smiled knowingly. Now he has a reason to get better. Luna's face turned red, and Kai looked down at his hands, feeling his own cheeks warm. Everyone could see what was growing between them, even if neither of them had spoken it out loud yet. As the days passed, Kai found himself thinking about Luna constantly. When he was having tea with Queen Yuki, listening to her stories about Luna's childhood, Kai would imagine that young boy growing up to become the person he knew now. When he walked through the palace gardens, he would think about how nice it would be to walk there with Luna someday when he was strong enough. When he lay in bed at night, he would remember the feeling of Luna's hand in his and wish the wall between their rooms would disappear entirely. One evening, about a month after the wedding, Queen Yuki asked Kai to join her in her private sitting room. She looked more rested than when Kai had first arrived, though sadness still lingered in her eyes. Kai, she said gently, I want to thank you for being here. I know this arrangement was not your choice, but you've handled it with such grace and kindness. You've given me comfort during the darkest time of my life. You're very welcome, Your Majesty, Kai replied. You've treated me with more kindness than my own family ever did. The Queen reached over and patted his hand. I've been thinking about something. You're so young, Kai. You have your whole life ahead of you. Once enough time has passed and the mourning period is over, I would understand if you wanted to leave. You could go anywhere, start a new life. I've already arranged for you to receive a generous allowance for the rest of your life. You don't have to stay in this palace, trapped by an agreement your father made. Kai felt a surge of panic at the thought of leaving. Your Majesty, if it's all the same to you, I'd like to stay. This has become my home. You've become like family to me. I have nowhere else I'd rather be." The queen's eyes filled with tears. "You truly mean that?" "Yes," Kai said firmly. "I truly do." What he couldn't tell her was that the real reason he wanted to stay was currently in the room next to his, getting stronger every day, making Kai's heart do strange and wonderful things. That night, when Kai went to Luna's room for their evening conversation, he found Luna standing by the window without any support. Luna turned when he heard the door open, and his face lit up with excitement. "Kai, look, I can stand on my own now." Kai rushed over, ready to catch Luna if he fell, but Luna remained steady. "This is incredible." "How long have you been standing there?" "Almost 10 minutes, Luna said proudly. "My legs are shaking a bit, but I can do it." "Oh, Kai, what if I really am getting better? What if I'm not going to die after all?" Looking at Luna's hopeful face, at the joy radiating from him, Kai felt his heart swell with an emotion he had been trying to deny. It wasn't just friendship anymore. It wasn't just companionship or kindness. He was falling in love with Luna, truly and deeply in love. "I think you're going to be fine," Kai said, his voice thick with emotion. "I think you're going to get completely better, and then we'll figure out what comes next together." Luna stepped forward, closing the distance between them. He raised one hand and gently touched Kai's cheek. "Kai, I need to tell you something. I don't want to wait anymore because life is too short and too uncertain. I love you. I've fallen completely in love with you. You came into my life when I had given up hope, and you gave me a reason to fight. You made me want to live again." Kai felt tears streaming down his face, but they were happy tears. "I love you too, Luna. I didn't know it was possible to fall in love with someone this quickly. But everything about us has been unusual from the start. You're the first person who ever made me feel like I mattered, like I was worth something just for being myself." "You are worth everything," Luna whispered, and then he leaned forward and pressed his lips to Kai's. The kiss was gentle and sweet and full of promise. It was nothing like the empty ceremony where Kai had stood beside an empty chair. This was real. This was true. When they pulled apart, both of them were smiling through their tears. "So," Luna said with a laugh, "I guess we're actually married now in the way that really matters." "I guess we are," Kai agreed, and kissed him again. Over the next 2 months, Luna's recovery continued to amaze everyone. He could walk around his room freely now and even started doing simple exercises to rebuild his strength. His appetite returned fully, and he began to look more like the healthy prince he had been before the illness struck. The silver-white color of his hair remained, a lasting effect of the sickness, but Luna said he didn't mind. It made him look unique. But as Luna got better, a new problem emerged. Duke Soren had been suspiciously quiet since Luna's supposed death. Jin had his informants keeping watch, and they reported that the Duke was making alliances with other nobles, slowly building support for his claim to the throne. He was waiting for Queen Yuki to officially name him as heir, which tradition required she do within 6 months of Luna's death. "We're running out of time," Jin explained to Kai and Luna during one of their secret meetings. "The 6-month mark is approaching. Once Duke Soren is named heir, he'll have legitimate power. If we reveal that Prince Luna is alive after that, Soren could claim the whole thing was a conspiracy to deny him his rightful inheritance. It could start a civil war. But if we reveal the truth now," Luna said, pacing his room with renewed energy, "we have to explain why we faked my death. People might not understand. They might think it was a trick or a scheme. Plus," Kai added worriedly, "if Duke Soren realizes you're alive and healthy, won't he just try to kill you for real this time?" They all sat in troubled silence, trying to find a solution. It was Luna who finally spoke. "There's only one way to handle this. We need to bring Duke Soren's true nature to light before we reveal that I'm alive. If people know he was plotting to harm me, then our deception will be understood as self-defense rather than trickery." "But how do we prove he was plotting against you?" Kai asked. Jin smiled grimly. "Leave that to me. I have loyal soldiers who have been watching the Duke very carefully. If he's been meeting with assassins or making treasonous plans, we'll find the evidence." While Jin worked on gathering proof of Duke Soren's conspiracy, Kai focused on helping Luna regain his strength. They developed a secret training routine where Luna would practice sword fighting and riding techniques in his locked room during the hours when the palace was quiet. Kai, who had learned some basic self-defense from village guards back home, would spar with Luna using wooden practice swords. It was during one of these practice sessions that something changed between them again. They were both sweating and laughing, and Luna had just managed to disarm Chi with a particularly clever move. He was grinning with triumph, looking more alive and happy than Kai had ever seen him. "You're getting really good at this," Kai said, picking up his practice sword. "Soon you'll be as strong as you were before." "Stronger," Luna said confidently. "Because now I know what I'm fighting for." He pulled Kai close and kissed him thoroughly, not gentle this time but passionate and full of life. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Luna said, "When this is all over, when I can finally step outside these rooms and be alive in public again, I want everyone to know that you're not just my consort in name. I want them to know that I chose you, that I love you, that you're my real husband." "Even though I'm not royal?" Kai asked. "Even though I come from a minor noble family that basically sold me?" "Especially because of all that," Luna said firmly. "You became someone amazing not because you were born to privilege but because you chose to be kind and strong despite everything. That's true nobility. Kai, that's what a real prince consort should be." 3 months after the fake wedding ceremony, Jin finally had what he needed. His spies had discovered that Duke Soren had indeed been meeting with a group of hired assassins. Even more damning, they found letters proving that Soren had actually been the one who caused Luna's illness in the first place. He had slowly poisoned Luna over several months, making it look like a natural sickness, planning to take the throne once Luna died. "This is worse than we thought," Jin reported, spreading the evidence across the table in Luna's room. "Your uncle didn't just wait for you to die, he tried to kill you deliberately." Luna's face went white with shock and anger. "My own uncle, my mother's brother, how could he?" "Greed and ambition turn people into monsters," Kai said quietly, thinking about his own father who had sold him without a second thought. They needed to be strategic about how they revealed everything. Jin suggested holding a formal court session where all the nobles would be gathered. They would present the evidence of Duke Soren's crimes first, letting the nobility and people understand what kind of person he really was. Then, at the moment when the Duke thought he had lost everything, they would reveal that Luna was alive. "It will be dramatic," Jin admitted, "but it will also make clear that we had good reasons for faking your death. People will understand that we were protecting you from a real threat." The day of the court session arrived. Queen Yuki had been told about the evidence against her brother, but still didn't know that Luna was alive. They decided it would be too much shock for her to handle both revelations at once. So they would tell her about Luna being alive only after Soren's crimes were exposed. Kai stood beside the queen in the great throne room, playing his role as the grieving consort. Hundreds of nobles filled the space, all dressed in their finest clothes. Duke Soren stood near the front, looking smug and confident. He thought today would be the day he was officially named as heir to the throne. Jin stepped forward to address the court. "Before we proceed with today's official business, there is a matter of grave importance that must be addressed. We have discovered evidence of treason and murder." The room erupted in shocked whispers. Duke Soren's confident expression faltered slightly. Jin presented the evidence methodically and clearly. He showed the letters proving Soren had hired assassins. He called forward the palace servants who had witnessed Soren sneaking poison into Luna's food. He produced testimony from the assassins themselves, who had been captured and questioned. As the evidence mounted, Duke Soren's face changed from confident to worried to outright terrified. He tried to deny everything, tried to claim it was all lies, but the proof was overwhelming. "You tried to murder your own nephew," Jin declared. "You poisoned Prince Luna slowly over months, making him suffer, all so you could steal the throne that was rightfully his." Queen Yuki stood up, her face pale with shock and fury. "Brother, is this true? Did you kill my son?" "He was weak," Soren shouted, losing all composure. "He would have been a terrible king. I would have been better. I deserve the throne." The nobles gasped at this confession. Several guards moved forward to restrain Soren, who was now ranting about how unfair it was that Luna had been born first. This was the moment. Jin gave a subtle signal to Kai, who stepped forward. "Duke Soren," Kai said, his voice carrying across the silent throne room. "You're wrong about one thing. You didn't kill Prince Luna." Soren looked at him with confusion. "What are you talking about? Everyone knows he's dead. You married his corpse." "I married a living person," Kai said, and then he turned to the doors at the side of the throne room. "Your Highness, would you please join us?" The doors opened and Luna walked in. The throne room exploded with noise. People shouted, gasped, some even screamed. Queen Yuki made a sound like all the air had been knocked out of her lungs, and Duke Soren's face went absolutely white with terror. Luna walked steadily across the throne room, his head held high. He wore the formal robes of a crown prince, deep blue embroidered with silver moons. His silver-white hair was pulled back elegantly, and though he was still thinner than he had been before the poisoning, he looked healthy and strong. "Hello, Uncle," Luna said coldly. "Surprise, I'm not dead." He walked directly to the throne where his mother sat frozen in shock. Luna knelt before her. "Mother, I'm sorry for deceiving you. I was dying from the poison Uncle Soren gave me. We announced my death to protect me while I recovered. I'm so sorry for making you grieve when I was alive all along." Queen Yuki reached out with shaking hands to touch Luna's face, as if she couldn't believe he was real. "My son? You're really alive? This isn't a dream?" "I'm really alive, Mother, and I'm getting stronger every day." The Queen pulled Luna into a fierce embrace, sobbing with joy and relief. The nobles were still in chaos, some celebrating, others demanding explanations. Jin stepped forward to address the crowd. "Prince Luna was poisoned to the brink of death. We announced his death to protect him from further assassination attempts while he fought to recover. Now that he has recovered, and now that we have proof of Duke Soren's treason, Prince Luna can safely return to his rightful place." Luna stood, still holding his mother's hand. He looked out at the assembled nobles with the confidence of someone who had faced death and survived. "I know you all have questions. I know this seems strange and possibly even suspicious. But I ask you to understand that we did what we had to do to save my life. My uncle tried to kill me. He almost succeeded. If we hadn't hidden the truth, he would have finished what he started." He turned to look at Duke Soren, who was being held by guards. "Uncle, you wanted the throne so badly that you were willing to poison your own nephew. But you failed. I survived, and now everyone knows what kind of person you really are." Duke Soren's face twisted with rage. "This is a trick. They're lying. He probably wasn't even sick. They faked everything to make me look bad." Dr. Chen, the royal physician, stepped forward. "I can confirm that Prince Luna was genuinely ill and genuinely dying. I treated him myself. His recovery is nothing short of miraculous, but it was real." The nobles began to shift their opinion. They could see that Luna was telling the truth, that he and his allies had acted out of necessity rather than malice. Luna raised his hand to quiet the crowd. "I will answer all your questions in time. But first, there's something else I need to make clear. Many of you know that I went through a wedding ceremony while I was supposedly dead. You probably thought it was just a sad gesture to comfort my grieving mother. But I want to tell you the truth about that too." He walked over to where Kai stood and took his hand. "This is Kai. He came here not knowing I was alive. He was told he would be married to a dead prince, living alone in a palace, playing a role for a grieving queen. But instead of running away or complaining, he stayed. He talked to me through a locked door. He kept my secret. He gave me hope and a reason to fight for my life. He sat with me during my darkest moments and made me laugh when I wanted to give up. And somewhere in all of that, we fell in love." Kai felt his face turn red as hundreds of eyes focused on him, but Luna's hand in his was steady and strong. "So yes," Luna continued, "our wedding ceremony was unusual, but our marriage is real. Kai is my true husband, my chosen partner, and he will stand beside me as prince consort when I take the throne. If any of you have a problem with that, speak now." The throne room was silent. Then, one by one, the nobles began to kneel in respect. They were acknowledging Luna as their rightful prince and accepting Kai as his consort. Queen Yuki stood and addressed the court with a voice that was stronger than it had been in months. "My son lives. His chosen husband has my full blessing and support. Duke Soren will be punished for his crimes. Let it be known throughout the kingdom that Prince Luna has returned and that he will be a great king someday." The nobles cheered. Duke Soren was dragged away by guards, still protesting and shouting, and Luna turned to Kai with a smile that could light up the whole palace. "We did it," Luna whispered. "It's over. We're free." In the days that followed, the story of Prince Luna's return spread throughout all the kingdoms. People were amazed by the tale of the prince who had been poisoned but survived, who had been hidden away but returned stronger than ever. And in a small village far from the Moon Kingdom, Lord Takeshi and Ryota heard the news too. One morning, about a week after Luna's public return, a messenger arrived at Lord Takeshi's house with a letter bearing the royal seal of the Moon Kingdom. Takeshi opened it with shaking hands. Suddenly remembering that he had sent his son Kai to marry the prince everyone thought was dead. The letter was written in formal language, but the message was clear. Prince Luna was alive and had recovered fully. He wished to inform Lord Takeshi that his son Kai had performed admirably as a companion and support during the prince's recovery. Furthermore, Prince Luna and Prince Consort Chi sent their regards but wished to make clear that they had no interest in maintaining contact with Kai's birth family, given how poorly they had treated him. Attached to the letter was the original payment Lord Takeshi had received for marrying Kai to a dead prince. A note from the royal treasurer explained that since Prince Luna was not dead, the original terms of the agreement were void, and all payments must be returned immediately. Lord Takeshi's face went pale. He had already spent most of that gold on expensive gifts for Ryota and investments in his land. Returning it would essentially bankrupt him. Ryota read the letter over his father's shoulder, his own face going white. "Father, this means Kai is married to a real prince. A living prince who will be king someday. Kai is going to be a king's husband." "We threw away a connection to the most powerful family in the kingdom," Takeshi whispered in horror. "I sold him off thinking I was getting rid of a burden, and instead I sent him straight into the arms of future royalty." The realization of what they had lost hit both of them like a physical blow. If they had been kind to Kai, if they had valued him, they would now have a direct connection to the throne. They could have been important, influential, wealthy beyond measure. Instead, they had nothing. Takeshi immediately sat down to write a groveling letter to Kai, suddenly calling him "my beloved son," and expressing how proud he was, how he had always known Kai was special, how he hoped they could visit the palace soon. Ryota wrote his own letter, full of apologies and claims that he had always loved his brother, that he missed him terribly, that surely Kai would want his family to share in his good fortune. Both letters were carefully composed to make it seem like they had always cared about Kai and were simply overjoyed at his success. The letters arrived at the palace a week later. A servant brought them to Kai, who was sitting in the garden with Luna. They were holding hands and watching the sunset together, enjoying the simple pleasure of being able to sit outside openly as a couple. Kai read both letters aloud to Luna. With each sentence, his expression became more and more incredulous at the audacity of his father and brother. "They actually think I'll believe this," Kai said when he finished. "They actually think they can pretend they always cared about me." "What are you going to do?" Luna asked. Kai thought for a moment. His first instinct was to be angry, to write back cruel letters telling them exactly what he thought of their sudden change of heart. But then he realized something. Being cruel back would just make him like them, and he was better than that. "I'm going to write them one letter," Kai decided. "One honest letter, and then I'm going to move on with my life." He went to his desk and carefully composed his response. "Dear Father and Ryota, I received your letters. I want to thank you for finally showing me clearly what you really are. For years, I tried to earn your love and respect. I worked hard. I tried to be good enough. But nothing I did ever mattered because you had already decided I was worthless. When you sent me away to marry a dead prince, you thought you were getting rid of me. You thought I would disappear into the palace and never be heard from again. You were happy to trade me for gold and never look back. But here's what you didn't expect. I found people who actually value me. Queen Yuki treats me like a son. Jin has become a loyal friend. And Luna loves me not because of what I can do for him, but because of who I am. I have learned that real family isn't about blood. It's about who stands by you when things are hard. It's about who sees your worth even when you can't see it yourself. You are not my family anymore. You gave up that right when you discarded me without a second thought. I forgive you for what you did because holding on to anger would only hurt me, not you. But I don't forget, and I don't welcome you back into my life. Please don't write again. Please don't try to visit. You made your choice and I've made mine. I hope you find whatever you're looking for in life, but you won't find it through me. May you have the life you deserve. Goodbye, Ki, Prince Consort of the Moon Kingdom. When Ki showed the letter to Luna before sending it, Luna pulled him close and kissed him softly. You're remarkable, you know that? You could have destroyed them with your position now, but instead, you chose kindness. That's why you're going to be an amazing Prince Consort. I learned it from the best, Kai said, leaning into Luna's embrace. The letter was sent, and Kai meant what he said. He didn't want revenge in the traditional sense. He didn't want to hurt his father and brother. He just wanted to be free of them, to live his life without their shadow hanging over him. As for Lord Takeshi and Ryota, they had to return the gold, which left them in debt. Master Hiroshi, hearing about how they had treated Kai and learning about their sudden interest in reconnecting only after Kai's status improved, was disgusted by their opportunistic behavior. He ended Ryota's adoption, saying he had no interest in raising someone with such poor character. Ryota had to return to his father's house in shame. Without Master Hiroshi's wealth and connections, he was just another minor noble's son with no particular skills or prospects. Lord Takeshi, now poor and without the son he had invested everything in, had to sell most of his land to pay his debts. They lived, but they lived with the knowledge that they had thrown away something precious. Every time they heard news about Prince Luna and Prince Consort, Kai, and there was a lot of news as the couple became beloved figures throughout the kingdom, they were reminded of what they had lost. Meanwhile, in the Moon Kingdom Palace, Kai and Luna were building a beautiful life together. Luna continued to regain his strength, and within 6 months, he was completely healthy. He began taking on royal duties again, preparing to eventually become king. And everywhere he went, Kai was by his side. They made a powerful team. Luna was charismatic and inspiring as a leader, while Kai had a talent for connecting with common people and understanding their needs. Together they worked to improve the kingdom, creating new laws to protect children from being sold or mistreated by their families. They established orphanages and schools so that every child would have opportunities regardless of their birth circumstances. Queen Yuki recovered from her grief and became a strong, wise advisor to her son. She adored Kai and often told him he was the best thing that ever happened to Luna. She loved to spoil both of them, throwing celebrations for every anniversary and achievement. Jin became the head of the royal guard and Luna's closest advisor. He never married, but seemed perfectly content with his role protecting and serving the prince he had devoted his life to. Dr. Chen continued as the royal physician, though he spent much of his time studying Luna's mysterious recovery, hoping to develop treatments that could help others with similar illnesses. As for Duke Soren, he was exiled to a remote island where he would spend the rest of his days. He had tried to steal a throne through poison and murder, but in the end he lost everything while the nephew he tried to kill thrived. 5 years after that strange wedding ceremony to a supposedly dead prince, Luna officially became king of the Moon Kingdom. The coronation was the grandest celebration anyone had ever seen, and when Luna placed a second crown on Kai's head, naming him King Consort, the crowd cheered so loudly it could be heard throughout the entire capital city. That night, standing on the royal balcony and looking out at their kingdom, Luna took Kai's hand. "Do you remember that first night?" Luna asked. "When you talked to me through a locked door, when we were both so alone and scared." "I remember," Kai said softly. "I thought my life was over. I thought I was being sent away to live in a beautiful prison." "Instead, you saved my life," Luna said. "And I'd like to think I saved yours too, in a way." "You did," Kai agreed. "You showed me I was worth loving. You gave me a real home and a real family." They kissed as fireworks exploded in the sky above them, celebrating their coronation. And in that moment, Kai thought about how strange life could be. He had been sold off by his family, sent to marry a dead prince, and told he was worthless. But the truth was the opposite. He had found true love with someone who valued him above all else. He had found a family that chose him back, and together they were going to rule a kingdom with kindness, justice, and wisdom. His father and brother had meant to throw him away, but instead they had set him free to become someone far greater than they could have imagined. And really, that was the best revenge of all, not hurting them, but living so well without them that their cruelty became meaningless. Kai had learned the most important lesson of all. The people who don't value you don't get to define your worth. You define it yourself through your choices, your kindness, and your courage to keep going even when things seem impossible. And sometimes, when you're brave enough to keep going, you find that the ending of one story is really just the beginning of something far more beautiful than you ever dreamed possible. Ready for your own love story? If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel for more heartwarming BL romance stories. Drop a comment below telling me what you loved most about Kai and Luna's journey. Did you cry? Did you cheer? What should happen in a bonus epilogue? Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss when I upload new stories about love, courage, and finding your true family. And if you want to support this channel and get early access to stories, check out the link in the description. Your support helps me create more content like this. Thank you for listening, and remember, you are worthy of love exactly as you are. Blue Heart, see you in the next story.